welcome to the show. We are very honored to have you on Executive Corner Expert Talks today to hear all your insights. Pleasure to have you. So first of all, congratulations on your exceptional financial year 21 results. And how much can you say of this success could be attributed to the development activity within the Property Trust?
Well, the Property Trust was no doubt an outstanding part of our performance, $253 million of EBIT. Of that, 150 million was because of a cap rate compression. In other words, the properties we already existed in our portfolio went up in value. We had $50 million of undeclared profit from a previous period, just the accounting treatment around the way that we handled the trust. And then we had development profit. So development profit itself was most probably only about 20-25% of the overall result.
Okay, that's interesting. So it did play a smaller portion perhaps within the larger framework, is that correct?
Yeah, the revaluations have been driving it. We've seen a continued drop in cap rates. Our portfolio is now sitting at 4.2%. If you'd asked me even a week ago, I thought it might not go lower, but there's been some transactions in the last week, Qantas and a couple of others, well down in the threes. So we might see another 25 or 50 basis points movement in the coming 12 months.
Well, that's great to hear. And hopefully that's the outcome that we're seeing in the near future. And I can imagine that the rise of online shopping and larger e-commerce sector has also added to this result. How much would you say that this has contributed to the bolstering of your growth?
Yes, it's definitely put a rocket under it. I mean, if you're in New South Wales or Victoria, the only way you can shop at the moment is online. So people are learning that to shop online, they never would have thought about it. And no doubt once things open up, a fair percentage of that will stick. So I would think that it's a shift that we've seen. And behind the scenes, all the distributors, the National Post and the DHLs of the world and all the other players in this area, of course, they're all desperately looking for more capacity, more space to be able to lift their throughput.
Right, and that of course necessitates the need for well-located distribution hubs and obviously a very solid supply chain. Have you had any issues with interruptions with that supply chain, or has it been relatively smooth?
Well, they've had the same risks as everybody else. Obviously, everybody's worried about someone having COVID and coming in and infecting the balance of the workforce. And like a lot of people now, look, we're doing the rapid antigen tests on employees every day to try and avoid that. It did impact on our construction at different periods of time when we were closed down. But at least today we're back to full construction in New South Wales. And hopefully in another week's time, we'll see it recommence in Victoria as well.
That's excellent to hear. And yes, obviously it's very much in tune with the rest of the economy and the sector there. Very reliant on it indeed. Now, we've recently learned that you had an acquisition of a massive brick distributor in the USA, Illinois Brick Company. Could you tell us maybe what was the rationale behind this acquisition and how has it strengthened your overall position?
Yes, a good question. We had a bit of a gap in the Indiana and Iowa area, in other words, around Chicago. And IBC was our biggest customer in this area, and we were their biggest supplier. So it was it was almost natural that we should get together. It took us a lot longer than we thought. It took over 18 months with all the interruption of COVID and not being able to travel and everything. And, it was on and off again a few times. But anyhow, in the end, we got the deal done. And we've got 225 employees. They turn over about $100 million US. And they sell north of 100 million bricks a year. So it was a great fit. We've got a couple of plants in those areas. It was a gap. We didn't have any of our own stores or distribution in that area. So it fitted in very well. And it's in the first couple of months, it's gone particularly well. It's performing well, exactly where we expected it to.
Oh, that's great to hear. And I can imagine the acquisition really strengthened your global presence as well. Is that the case?
Oh, it does. And we're only focusing in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic and Midwest areas of the United States. And this was a major part of it. As I said, we were a bit weak in there, so it has strengthened us. We're really now well and truly the largest brick producer and supplier and distributor in those areas.
Right, definitely. That's really great that you've added this expansion to your network as well. Obviously, it's had a strengthening effect for you. Now, just to touch on sustainability, because I am familiar with the fact that Brickworks is very big on sustainability and it's a very key issue for you as well. So you've recently achieved the Climate Active Product Certification, which is a massive feat for you. What other goals are on the horizon in terms of your sustainability strategies?
Well, we're continuing to look to expand our range of carbon neutral bricks. We have a number already. We expanded it this year, and we're finding that architects are inquiring for that if they're trying to reduce the carbon footprint of the building that they're building. But of course, the biggest thing about clay bricks, or the biggest advantage, is of course the secondary order, the energy they save when they're in the building. A clay brick returns the energy it takes to make it in about 9 months, and then of course we guarantee them 100 years. So I don't know of any other product that is really as sustainable as a clay brick. In many cases, we manufacture them out of recycled materials. We don't necessarily have to mine fresh clay for them. We get a lot of materials out of excavations and things. And we're continuing to work on a program of upgrading our kilns to a more efficient fleet of kilns, and that will continue for the rest of this decade. And we're looking at other alternate fuels, things like synthetic natural gas, and we've got a bit of work we're going on with a couple of companies that are looking at producing hydrogens that we're working with that as well. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire, and hopefully a couple of them will come through, and we'll be able to get to the point of having all of our products certified and carbon neutral.
And that's great to hear. By when would you say that you're hoping to achieve this carbon neutral goal? Do you have a sort of timeline in mind?
Well, I think we'll get to completing the replacement of our fleet of kilns, in the latter part of this decade or early next decade. I think all these things take time to roll out, and particularly, like I say, look at the synthetic natural gas. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure that's got to go in behind that to make that happen. And this is really the conversion of food waste into gas and wastewater, which we can use all the leftover ingredients. We can use them all. So there's just the infrastructure. The big programs. We've got to hopefully build a test model soon, and if it's successful, then it'll be a matter of most probably a decade to roll it out across the country.
Right, well, that's very good to hear, and hopefully these goals are met within the time frame that you're looking at. It seems very feasible to me that they could be, particularly considering the science behind it, and you're obviously investing heavily in these sustainable materials, which obviously benefits multiple stakeholders along the way. Would you say that this is the case, that there's...
Oh yes, I think particularly with the synthetic natural gas, I mean, I think most people think it's almost immoral to waste food. And if we can turn that waste food into a usable product, I think that's positive. Same as like us taking recycled clay and shale. If we can use that and turn that into bricks, that's better than putting it in landfills. I mean, I think these things are positive right across for the entire community.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Very well said there. Now, just before you wrap up, Mr. Partridge, could you share with us insights into what's going on with this disruption in terms of the construction industry that we've seen? What do you think is needed, in your opinion, to get this back on track?
No more lockdowns, but it's very hard, particularly the last one we had in Melbourne. It was late in the afternoon. We got told that it was all going to stop the next day. I mean, we already had loaded our trucks ready to go, and it was very hard to stop on very short notice. So we found that difficult, but and it has had a big impact on our sales. But we suffered the same in New South Wales, a couple of months ago, and we've now recovered back to normal. So as long as we're allowed to operate, and we can, we've got a lot of programs to stop any employees or somebody infected getting on site. If they all hold up, I'm hoping that we'll be able to move our way out of it over the next few weeks, and we'll start to return to normal. And there's a lot of work out there. There's a solid pipeline of work that gives a chance to get to something.
That's really good to hear, and hopefully that is exactly what happens. In light of that recovery, what do you imagine that shareholders will be able to look forward to in the near term from Brickworks?
Well, we pride ourselves on maintaining or increasing our dividend, and we've done that now for 45 years. So we increased it again this year to a total of 61 cents for the full year. So we're looking forward to be able to continue doing that, and we're pretty confident because we know that our rental income from our property trust is going to increase, and the income from our investments, mainly in Washington H. Soul Pattinson, is going to continue to increase. So I think the shareholders that invest in Brickworks can look forward to a very steady, solid and increasing stream of dividends going forward.
All right, well, it sounds like with that, they're likely to have your vote of confidence there with some really good things around the corner.
Yes, thank you.
Well, we look forward to seeing that coming soon. And thanks very much for sharing those insights. It's been really great to hear from you as well, and everyone at Brickworks. So thank you for coming on our show today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.